Hello and welcome to Before the Kickoff, the Daily Iowans weekly pregame show and your number one source for Hawkeye football. I'm Colin Carruthers.
And I'm Elise Gann. We're going to break down everything you need to know before the kickoff.
Well, something looks a little different with this episode right now. Obviously, Elise, this is our Thanksgiving break edition. We're all coming to you from home. I am coming to you from Cincinnati, Ohio right now.
And I'm in Chicago, Illinois. I got all my Chicago sports shrine behind me, and I'm happy to be back, Colin.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're all back home right now, but we still wanted to bring you guys coverage of this weekend's upcoming matchup between Iowa and Nebraska. But first, what about that last game against Michigan State?
Beautiful setting in Kinnick Stadium for Senior Day for 27 different Hawkeyes as they hosted Michigan State in what was a boring start to the game until this happened. Caden Weegan, a punt return that he took all the way back to the house on his own Senior Day there, gives Iowa the 6-0 lead, eventually 7-0, and then nothing else much over the entire first half. Michigan State would get a field goal, so 7-3 at halftime, and then second half, third quarter, Michigan State turns it on. They do this with a big bomb, giving them the 10-7 lead, and then again, the very next drive, hitting the end zone. They've got a 17-7 lead going into the fourth quarter, looking for their first conference win. They would hit this field goal. Iowa makes it 17-10. And then it was fourth quarter Mark Gronowski that started to churn it on. Finds a few amazing catches. This one, the Sam Phillips, which would set up for this touchdown pass, finding Jacob Gill on a beautiful grab, floating backwards, ties it up 17 apiece. But then, it's still a tie ball game. Iowa needs to come away with the win here. Well, look at this. Reese Vandersee bobbles it and still brings it down. And Drew Stevens lines up and he gets his game winner in his final home game at Kinnick Stadium. Iowa wins 2017, sends these fans home happy on Senior Day.
Well, at least I can say probably not a more fun way to go out of Kinnick Stadium than that.
Colin, that was a very stressful way to go out of Kinnick Stadium. I was still catching my breath. Hours after the game ended, hours after the press conferences, still trying to compress what had just happened.
Well, I think that just means it's still a fun game that you got to witness. So that's exciting, though.
It was exciting. I was going through it on those sidelines. I was here, but in the end, it was fun.
Absolutely, but I don't know if you think this game could be any closer, any more further in margin. I don't know.
I don't know, Colin, but I'm not sure if this week will be any better in terms of the Hawkeyes giving us heart attacks.
Fair, Elise. It is officially rivalry week between Iowa and Nebraska, a border battle that holds some significant weight for some more than others.
They said I was too small to play there, so it is what it is. I'm beyond grateful they said that because, I got to end up here, and they offered actually after I committed here.
Over the past 2 years in a row, it has come down to the wire between these two teams, ending in very similar fashion, just how that Michigan State game just ended.
Yeah, Colin, everyone thought the outcome of that Michigan State game would be drastically different than what it was, so even though the Hawkeyes are favored to beat Nebraska, I would certainly prepare for another tight one. However, Iowa may have more of an advantage this time around with the Huskers starting quarterback Dylan Raiola out for the season. The sophomore starter was a beam of hope for the Nebraska football program as he was one of the top prospects in America, but that light quickly dimmed after he went down with a season-ending leg injury against USC earlier this month. Before the injury, Raiola threw for a total of 2,000 yards on the dot with 18 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. The Huskers are 1-1 without Raiola, with both games led by true freshman quarterback TJ Lateef. The four-star recruit was high in demand, receiving offers from Georgia, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Penn State, Miami, and Indiana, but ended up choosing Nebraska. Over 5 games with the Huskers, including 2 starts, Lateef has completed 70.4% of passes for 653 yards and 4 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. In his first start over UCLA, the freshman completed 13 of 15 passes with 3 touchdowns, but struggled the next week, throwing just 21 of 37 passes against Penn State.
It is unfortunate for Nebraska to have to make adjustments mid-season, but luckily for them, they have someone who can make things significantly easier in Lateef. Running back Emmett Johnson for Nebraska is what Caleb Johnson was for Iowa. He's the guy over there. Over the course of the season, Johnson has 222 carries for 1,234 yards and 11 touchdowns, which is almost double his stats from last season where he had just 117 carries for 589 yards and just one measly touchdown. Meanwhile, over the last 3 games, all the other Cornhusker running backs have combined for just 6 carries. But he's not only a weapon in the backfield. Johnson ranks 3rd in the country in passing targets by a running back with 51, tallying 44 catches for 348 yards and 3 touchdowns. In their battle with UCLA, Johnson racked up 103 receiving yards on 3 receptions, scoring 2 touchdowns. But he can't actually do it all, Elise.
No, he cannot, but Latif has some other help from the offense, starting with sophomore transfer Isaiah Hunter. Coming over from California, Hunter is Nebraska's top receiver with 42 catches for 611 yards and 5 touchdowns. He also leads the team in targets with 64 and has recorded 4 games with more than 70 receiving yards. And the help doesn't stop there. Sophomore wide receiver Ja'Cory Barney Jr. has also had a successful year, catching 42 passes for 458 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's recorded 2 100-plus yard games this season against Akron and Michigan. And then, of course, Colin, the backbone of the offense.
Yes, absolutely, Elise. Let's talk about that Husker O-line. Nebraska's offensive line has been holding up well, ranking 16th in the country in pass blocking grade. They have given up only 106 pressures on 388 dropbacks, which ranks 7th in the Big Ten. This O-line is led by Justin Evans, who's ranked the 18th best lineman in the Big Ten, as well as Rocco Spindler and Henry Latovsky. Well, on the topic of lines, let's flip to the other side of the field and focus on Nebraska's defensive line.
Yeah, Colin, they are not doing as hot as they were last season, lacking sacks and giving up a large number of yards per game. The Cornhusker defensive line is ranked 89th in sacks per game with an average of 1.73. Through 11 games, they have only recorded 19 sacks. Against the run, they're not much better. They're ranked 94th in the country, giving up 167.5 yards on the ground per game. This is obviously something Iowa will try to take full advantage of.
When you got guys like that up front, we can continue to pound the rock. We got great running backs. Receivers are good at blocking as well, so we're going to continue to attack that.
They do, however, have strength in their secondary. Andrew Marshall, a transfer from Idaho, has allowed only 19 catches on 42 targets for 211 yards, which will make things a lot harder for Iowa's passing game that they already kind of struggle with.
At least there is one specific thing that I think will determine the outcome of this game.
And what is that one specific thing, Colin?
Well, the special teams, of course. We already know Iowa has one of the strongest special teams units in not only just the Big Ten, but the entire country. However, the Hawkeyes may have some competition in Huskers' special teams. Nebraska has allowed only 1 punt return for 20-plus yards this season and have only allowed 3 kick returns of 30-plus yards. Their special teams are ranked 2nd in the Big Ten according to Pro Football Focus. Kicker Kyle Kunana has also been solid for Nebraska, going 13 for 16 in field goals and completely perfect with his extra points. The one thing that could harm Nebraska, though, is his range. All 3 field goals that he missed on the season have been beyond 40 yards. So Nebraska needs to get comfortable field position if they want to rely on him, especially with the way these games tend to end, and we know it's going to be a full 4-quarter battle.
I mean, this is our last game.
Yeah.
They're going to give us their best shot. We're going to give them their best shot. Nebraska's a really solid team. And, time and time again, they're giving us their best effort every time.
Well, obviously, this should be an exciting matchup, at least. But I think there's someone who might have a good feeling about things going on out in Lincoln a little bit more than us.
I know, and this person is so familiar, and forgetting his name, though, Colin. We haven't spoken so long, and he's been in Nebraska instead of Iowa. Who is this guy again?
So distant, so far, but he's got a good look on the vibe around this team, how things are feeling about this upcoming matchup. Let's send it over to the one and only Brady Barron, former DITV sports director and now working out of Hastings, Nebraska.
The expectations were super high for the Cornhuskers coming into the year. A lot of that centered around Matt Rule heading into his third season as the head coach, and then quarterback Dylan Raiola, the former 5-star, getting his second full season as the starter. But some of those expectations have since died down just a little bit. A lot of that centered on Raiola getting hurt with a leg fracture, which took him out for the rest of the season. It's been TJ Lateef, a true freshman, leading the way ever since for the Huskers. With that being said, they have put together a super solid season with a couple of strong wins to open up the year against Cincinnati in Arrowhead Stadium, neutral site game there, and then a couple big wins over Akron, Houston Christian, before a close loss to a really solid Michigan team to open up the Big Ten schedule. Recently, they've been kind of hot and cold. Their recent loss to Penn State, an indicator of that, but regardless, the Nebraska fans are an elite group of fans in this country. If you want to put Iowa fans near the top of fan bases that will travel for their team and fill their home stadium, you got to put the Cornhusker fans right there with them. They travel to wherever they got to be, and they're going to fill Memorial Stadium and make an incredible hostile environment for the Hawkeyes when they head to town. There's absolutely few fan bases that fill their stadium and are quite as rowdy as Husker fans. They're a great base, so they are going to make things difficult on the Hawkeyes when they come to town. Even with the backup quarterback TJ Lateef in, it doesn't really matter who's playing for the Huskers. They're there every weekend, and they're going to be a loud fan base and make things difficult on the Hawks.
Well, thank you for that look there, Brady. Feel a little bit more comfortable looking at that team. Obviously, we miss you over here in Iowa City when we're all back together, but I know something that he probably misses is those kid captain stories.
Oh, I'm sure. And although Brady might be a little too comfortable over there in Nebraska, I'm sure he misses the comfort of those amazing stories. And this week's kid captain story is told by DITV's Ryan Paris.
The story of Millie Judge's life has been one of defying expectations.
And her birthday is Sunday. She'll be 10. We were never sure if we were going to get here, so this is a huge milestone.
Just a few months into her life, Millie received a rare diagnosis, Banyan-Riley-Ruvalcaba syndrome, a condition so rare, in fact, that doctors at the University of Iowa had never seen it before. BRRS causes developmental delays and abnormal cell growths in organs like the colon that can become cancerous over time. Therefore, the Judge family had to make the hour-and-a-half trip from Ottumwa to Iowa City multiple times a week for treatment.
When Millie was born, I had a full-time job. I left my full-time job to become a stay-at-home mom to help her and transfer her to her appointments.
STED was built and completed around the same time Millie was first diagnosed, making her one of the first patients the hospital ever serviced. And for 9+ years while staying with family in town, Iowa City became a home away from home for the Judges.
We've really become a close family. When you spend a lot of time in a hospital room, you know, we've really learned to get along, play games, you know, watch movies.
Over the years, Millie made strides and hit milestones the family learned not to take for granted.
It just sticks out in my mind watching her navigate the gravel driveway and how challenging that was initially, and then two, how she adapted to it.
Recently, Millie had a surgery to have her colon removed, and now she has a pouch that allows the family to do things they couldn't before with added peace of mind, including going to a watch party with friends and family this weekend to celebrate her role as a kid captain. From the University of Iowa, Ryan Paris, DITV Sports.
Well, thank you, Ryan, for that story right there. Again, Colin, always amazing to hear and learn about those journeys.
Absolutely, it is. One more kid captain and one more fantastic story for every kid captain this year. It's been terrific to learn who they are, not just what it is that might define them. It is who they are that defines them. So another terrific piece there. But Nebraska and Iowa is again the big topic this week. Two forces colliding in a border battle. You think back to last season, no handshake involved. It's going to be a terrific matchup.
Yeah, Colin, and this rivalry, it's not new. No. This has been going on for quite a bit, and I think we have someone who can tell us more about it, and that is Cole Krieger in the classroom.
Well, guys, for the third time this year and for the third time in the last 5 weeks, the BTK belt is all mine. Since we're on fall break, I decided to bring it home to Oregon, Wisconsin. That's right, guys, we have a virtual history lesson this week between Nebraska and Iowa. First, let's start off with the numbers. Nebraska leads the all-time series 30-22-3. However, Iowa is on a 2-game win streak and have won 9 out of the last 10. And looking back at a year ago, we all remember what head coach Matt Rhule told his team. Matt Rhule told his captains not to shake the Iowa captains' hands for the coin toss. Afterwards, All-American linebacker Jay Higgins confronted Rhule about his decision, in which Rhule replied, "Who are you?" What followed is what we in the sports biz call karma. Caleb Johnson on the first play of the fourth quarter housed a 78-yard touchdown and collected 5 broken tackles on the play. Then, Max Lone strip sacked Dylan Raiola to set up Drew Stevens' 53-yard game-winning field goal. Now, while these two teams have been rivals for a long time, they only started playing yearly back in 2011. Nebraska joined the Big Ten from the Big 12 in July of 2011. And since then, the two schools decided to adopt the Heroes Trophy. The trophy is set to honor community heroes from both states. And the coolest part of the trophy is that it has 4 sides, which a different meaning. 2 sides display the valor and badges from the 2 citizen heroes chosen by the 2 teams, and the other 2 are marked for wins and the final score of each game. Iowa has 10 wins on their side of the trophy, while Nebraska only has 4. Well, class, that was a look at one of the best rivalries in all of the Big Ten Conference. Colin Elise, back to you guys.
Thank you for that, Cole. Joining us from your home in Wisconsin. Hope your Thanksgiving break is going well. Got to learn a lot about 2 programs who obviously don't like each other, but it's not just these 2 that don't like each other, at least.
No, it is not, Colin. This is a big week in college football. It is rivalry week, and there are a lot of good games going on.
Absolutely. There are plenty of programs who have a lot of beef with each other. And for more on that, we're going to take a look around the Big Ten with Morgan Burhans joining us back in Iowa.
Well, guys, somehow this is the last week of the Big Ten regular season. And as we know, Iowa takes on their top Big Ten rival, Nebraska. But there are some other huge rivalry matchups around the Big Ten this week. Starting in Ann Arbor, Michigan takes on the #1 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes in the game. With an Ohio State win, it will secure them a spot in the Big Ten Championship. But this will not be an easy win for the Buckeyes, as Michigan has won in their last 4 matchups. This is a must-win game for head coach Ryan Day, who has struggled in his short tenure against Michigan. Next, we will head over to the West Coast, where Oregon will take on Washington. This is a huge game for Oregon, as a win will secure them a spot in the college football playoffs. Washington is a very, very competitive team, as they have only lost 3 games this season and are coming off a blowout win against UCLA. Next, Wisconsin will head up north against Minnesota to compete for the Axe. This game doesn't have huge implications, but it is a major historic rivalry in the Big Ten. Wisconsin is coming off a ranked win against Illinois, so this really could be a toss-up. Lastly, Penn State will take on Rutgers. The winner of this game will be bowl eligible, and the Nittany Lions are expected to take this one home. Though Rutgers' Ethan Kaliak-Manis could keep this one close. That's all I've got for Around the Big Ten this week. Back to you, Elise and Colin.
Thank you for that, Morgan. But of course, the main goal, the main prize is right on this show. One last week before the bowl game to win the belts.
Colin, this is the last hurrah. I want this belt back so bad. It has been way too long since I got my hands on that thing.
I gotta say, I hope you can get it again, but maybe next year, because this is the week I won it again last season. I'm going 2 for 2 on Nebraska weeks. That's the goal here, but we'll see if anyone else has a better prediction. So first, we'll send it over to Cole for his prediction.
It seems like every year these two teams played is always either low scoring or it comes down to the wire, and I think that's going to be the narrative in this week's game too, guys. I got Iowa winning 13-10, and if that score sounds familiar, well, it's been the score of the last 2 years. You know I like to do a little bit of trolling, and all the Husker fans out there, I think Iowa wins for the 3rd straight year by a score of 13-10.
Last game of the regular season, and I do not have much of an explanation this week. Quite frankly, I think this game is going to go the same as it goes year after year. Iowa will convert another game-winning field goal and break those Huskers' hearts again. We know Iowa did not shine last weekend against Michigan State, but somehow everyone knew the Hawks would pull off that win. They stand tall with confidence against unranked opponents, and I do not think this game will be any different. And let's be real, Iowa has the better corn. I got the Hawks 20-17.
Now this is a super interesting game for me. There's 2 major points of contention that I think are going to be keys in this one. One, will the Nebraska O-line be able to do enough to protect TJ Lateef so he can get the ball out to guys like Dane Key and Ja'Cory Barney Jr. And then on the other side, on the defense, the front seven, will they be able to stop the Iowa rushing attack, whether it's Mark Gronowski on QB keepers, Kamari Moulton, Jazz Patterson, whoever it is? Will they be able to slow down the Iowa rushing attack in this one? Because the rush defense has been one of the weaker parts of Nebraska this season. It's a big reason they lost to Penn State. And then on the flip side, quarterbacks have been getting hammered so far this season. They've been getting drilled. Dylan Raiola had a few games where he was getting sacked a lot with negative yards racking up on the rushing stat sheet. So those are going to be my two major keys in this one. And I simply think that it might be just a little too much for the Huskers to overcome with a true freshman backup quarterback. I've got the Hawkeyes winning this one 24-17. I do think it's going to be close. I don't think either offense is going to explode in this one, but I do think that they're going to walk into Lincoln and they're going to be able to come away with a win against kind of a banged up Nebraska team with a backup quarterback.
Well, guys, this rivalry matchup will for sure be another good one between these two teams. And in my opinion, I think it'll be another tight one for Iowa. I don't think we're getting a break from the stress anytime soon here. Last weekend, I wasn't prepared for the stress they put upon me, but this week, I am. And I'm counting on Drew Stevens to give the Hawkeyes a game-winning field goal in a 20-17 win.
Well, for my prediction this week, I've got Iowa winning this game 20-14. I do think it will be a little bit closer. Again, rivalry week, battling for the Heroes Trophy. But I do think Iowa just boat races Nebraska in every category on the field. It does hurt them that they do have a backup quarterback. He is still getting his feet underneath him. But I think Iowa will win, but it will be a closer game. Well, Lise, is it maybe rivalry week for us as well right now?
I think it is, Colin. I think it is.
You stay over there. You stay. Go move over that side. I don't want to be near you then, and it's going to be great.
Stay in Cincy with your Skyline chili. I'm good with
I'll stay with Skyline chili. And you know what? I'll bring up a Skyline flag and plant it in the middle of Chicago, just like everyone else did last year on Rivalry Week. And that's what's going to happen when I win the belt. You heard it here first.
I'm sure.
Well, I know I can win this week, but we'll still tune in on Friday to watch. Again, thank you to Cole, Morgan, Brady, and you for tuning in to this episode of Before the Kickoff.
We hope everyone is having a fantastic Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. You can make sure to follow all of our coverage on the Daily Iowan website and YouTube page, as well as all athletics coverage on those pages as well. For us here, Elise and Colin, we're saying have a great day watching Black Friday football.